Hey everybody, and welcome to Epic Everyday, our weekday podcast for busy, stressed out Christians who want to find freedom, abundance, and peace. I'm Liz Frericks, and this is my husband, Evan.
Good morning.
And we're so glad you guys are here with us today on this wonderful Wednesday.
Yes, good morning. Oh, I just said that, but thank you for being here. Thanks for listening, for turning on the show, and we really appreciate that, for giving us part of your day. We know your time's important. And if this episode is helpful or interesting to you, please pass it along to a friend or a family member.
Since it's Wednesday, our CSC of the day is being centered, which is living out of the essence of who God designed you to be. And this week, since it's our last week of doing the show for a while, we thought we'd talk about what we've learned about the CSCs.
Yeah, and it's been fun just talking about the last couple days, and I've gone first the last few times. So, Liz, why don't you open it up today about what you've appreciated about talking about the CSCs for a year?
Well, so Centered is still my favorite, which kind of made me laugh. Cause
it was before.
It was before, and I was like, man, a year of talking about it, and this is still one of those places where I feel like it's just so transformative. They all are, but I think the two reasons it really hits me is because my personality tends to get like pulled in 100 different directions at once, and I have a hard time prioritizing because everything feels urgent and important at the same time. So I'm always like, we gotta get all this stuff done, and the world's gonna end if we don't get it done. And some of that is like trauma history, but and then the other reason is because shame has been such a huge part of my personality for a huge chunk of my life, the majority of it. Yeah. And so, centered, living out of the essence of who God calls us to be, like that's an anchor in the middle of all that. I feel like I've re-grounded myself in the fact that shame just destroys our ministry. We can't let any hint of it hang around in our lives. There was, just such a long time in my life where I felt like I deserved to have shame in my life. And, that fighting it was actually not the right thing to do. And so talking about Centered for a year has sort of re-emphasized the wait a minute, no, we don't want even the tiniest particle of shame in our lives, because that keeps us from being who God's designed us to be. That keeps us from doing the ministry that God's designed us to be. If we see ourselves as a mistake or broken in some fashion, rather than recognizing that we are we are broken, but
beyond God's ability to do anything about, maybe, or
right, yeah,
just beyond repair, I guess.
Yeah, beyond repair, and just kind of that I'm broken in a way that messes everybody else up, and that. I guess beyond God's ability to repair, that God can no longer use me because I'm such a mess, which is how I felt, for, like I said,
and it's
a
BS.
good chunk of my life. Instead of recognizing, Psalm 139 talks about how we're fearfully and wonderfully made, and that all God's works are wonderful. So being able to recognize that in ourselves, to say, yep, I'm one of God's wonderful works, is so important. So I feel like Centered is so important as Christians to have that grounding in, this is who God made me to be. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. And then to be able to build out of that place, to let Centered be kind of a light shining in the chaos, telling us, here's what's important. Here's what you're supposed to be doing. Recognizing, okay, if I'm a hand, I do the hand stuff. If I'm a foot, I do the foot stuff, right. Instead of trying to do everything, which is, like I said, that's my personality. My temptation is to be I need to do everything. I shouldn't ever delegate because that's a sign of weakness, and I shouldn't ever,
When you're so good at seeing what can be done better and what needs to improve, that's such a valuable thing, but then that turns into, so I'll just go ahead and do it.
Right, exactly.
Instead of letting them do their job.
Yeah, well, it's because I feel guilty being oh yeah, here's how you could do it better, because it feels and here's where you made a mistake, instead of being able to say, and maybe you didn't know this, but here's something I can see that maybe you can't. This would be an easier and better way to do things.
Well, and sometimes people don't receive
respond
that very well. Yeah. But we could do better at that, couldn't we?
Yeah. So I love how Centered helps us kind of have that foundation. It has been so transformative in my life. You know, prior to this year, I read The Sacred Six by J.B. Glassinger, and there's a reason why I rave about that book all the time, because I use it every day.
Yeah.
Like my planner, I designed my own planner that's based around The Sacred Six, and I use it every day, and it's amazing to be able to look at stuff and to organize it according to what I should be doing and then what someone else should be doing and what's most important, and, you know, not feeling so overwhelmed. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. And it's been fun to watch, you know, us learn these lessons together. But yeah, especially the, like, I don't have to do everything with you. It's been nice because I see you stress yourself out trying to do everything.
What are you talking about?
I think this thing for Center for me has been really powerful, and it has to do with this thing that I used to do a lot, and I'm growing in this, but it's kind of being the chameleon guy who's like, I'm going to act this way around this person, but I'll act another way around another person, and it's these little kind of variations of myself. We talk about this a lot on Fridays. What were you going to say?
I was just thinking about, we're in the middle of reading The Finishing Touches by Hester Brown, which is just a ridiculous, fun romance novel. But one of the characters, they talk about how he's a chameleon and how a couple of them, like their accent shifts depending on who they're with.
But that's more calculated to kind of run his business right.
Yeah, but they talk about how that's just natural for him.
Sure.
That he's always done that as a way to kind of ingratiate himself with people, not on a subconscious level, you know, to fit in.
Right. And that's the thing. That's what I was doing. And I think the thing that being centered has freed me up to do is to be whoever God made me to be, to try to investigate what that is. I mean, because if you've got a kind of a list of potential ways that is based on these chameleon tendencies, it's a little tricky to sort that out, but I feel like I've been able to do that and to be like, well, if God made me this way, I should be that way all the time.
Right.
And where does the courage come from to do that? Because, well, that comes from God too. Like he's providing the things that I need to be able to even do that. So it's led to self-understanding that God had made my personality. Like I always knew God made my body, you know, but I think this understanding of God made me, whatever it is that makes me me, you know, it's not just what I look like, it's how I act, and it's all these different things. God designed that as well.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Real quick. Did you find Carol Tuttle's stuff really helpful for that?
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, Carol Tuttle has this system. It's a personality profile system, and she uses it to, I mean, we had a friend who looked at the webpage, just like, this is just all about fashion, which she does talk about fashion a lot, but it's not like learning to be a model and walk down the runway fashion. It's like, what, based on your personality, what kind of patterns and colors and types of things are a part of who you are.
Right.
And how are you going to be most comfortable in your own skin because you're designed a certain way. And I think it's such an interesting idea. And we, as soon as we started trying to incorporate some of that stuff into the way we dress, it was just an amazing thing.
Like magic.
Yeah. And I don't know what, she talks about, and it's not just, if we're just like, oh, what's personality traits? Like those are kind of invisible, but she's like, let's look at the way your face is shaped. Yeah. In your body in general. And like, these are some hardwired things that nobody can deny.
That was one of the things that was so crazy to me doing her system, because she talks about how every personality types, and she's got it like totally dialed in, how, type 1s who are the starters and more social people, like they always have kind of, stars. Like I have type 1 eyebrows that are kind of like the points of a star. And then they have the apple cheeks and they're like just these different facial features. And if you look at any type 1, like you're going to find these specific facial features in some combination.
Yeah, I think we subconsciously do this. I mean, I think when we see a stranger, there are certain things, visual cues that will maybe inform us about their personality. And often it's kind of right. I mean, it can be wrong too, because people could be, acting a certain way or making their face, looks, But anyway, it feels like these are hardwired things. And I think that's the other thing about Center that I love so much, is trying to help myself distinguish in myself and in the way I talk to people, especially our kids and our friends as well, like that there are things that are hardwired. He made my DNA, so my body looks this way because God made my DNA to look that way. My personality is a certain way. But then there's other things that we learn in life that are either caught or taught along the way, and those are variable. Those can be learned again if they're not right.
Right.
If we developed a coping mechanism when we were children and it's not appropriate for an adult to do that, we can work on that. It's not hardwired in there, but it takes work to distinguish, well, what's hardwired? I mean, if I'm naturally kind of this happy person who minimizes it, like a glass half full or whatever, is that a personality trait that it's just part of me that I should embrace, and because God made me that way, I can do some amazing ministry? Or is it me ignoring problems, and minimizing things? Like, it takes prayer and work and discernment to sort that out. But it's a fruitful journey to take, process. And I've really appreciated that. And I found it easier to be myself in various situations, and I appreciate that, because I don't like pretending. That was stressful, even though it was a way to manage stress. I've enjoyed trying to avoid that much better.
And you're awesome, so you should be yourself.
Well, you too.
Thanks. As always, pick whether today is going to be awesome or not, whether you're going to strengthen those neural pathways to look for the good things in your life or to look for the negative things in your life, because whatever you look for is what you find most often. We love you guys, and we are praying for you. Thanks to everybody that's been listening to the show and sharing the show. We really appreciate it. If you have found this episode helpful, please do share it and come back tomorrow, and we're going to continue our journey through the CSCs and talk about being connected.
Yeah, see you then.
Have a wonderful Wednesday.